Welcome to 1036. I'm Portia Young. Vote 2024 Table Talk is a new initiative here at Milwaukee PBS in partnership with Marquette University's Civic Dialogues program. It's an effort to restore civility when sharing differing views on key issues that might have impact when voting in November. So we invited a small, diverse group of voters for dinner and conversation at Engine Company 3 in Milwaukee's Walker's Point neighborhood. Our latest topic, education, including thoughts on school choice and who should decide what's taught in the classroom.
Welcome to our Vote 2024 Table Talk on Education. I'm Jasleen Kaur, a student research assistant at Marquette University and our facilitator for this conversation. Who do you think should be primarily responsible for decisions about what is taught in the classroom?
Parents. I mean, there should be input from teachers, but I believe it's parents. It's their children. I come from a conservative household. I am a conservative with liberal views on some things, but I'm a conservative and I feel like that if you're in a public school, yes, there should be input from the teachers and the government, but again, it's public, so it should be the public's view because they're paying tax dollars. And I feel like they should be able to have input on what their children are learning, and they should be able to trust that the system is teaching what they need to learn, and that they should have some input because again, it is their child ultimately.
I respect your opinion, but I strongly disagree with that because I think that if I'm sick, I'm not going to my son's soccer coach to get help. I'm going to the one who is the expert. In this case, it will be the doctor. Teachers are, for the most part, we know, teachers are trained in pedagogies, and I think that's the main thing. Teachers don't go into the classroom to teach critical race theory or racism. Teachers go into the classroom to develop critical thinking. And when you do that, then you have to allow the voices, in this case, the voices of the oppressed and the marginalized, because those are the voices that are being suppressed right now, to have a saying. Not because I want to convince my son that white privilege has had tremendous input and wealth in the United States. Not the point. But I want to teach my son is that he has to look at an issue from multiple perspectives, and that some discourses have dominated the narrative, and that it is time for other voices to also have a saying. And so it's a very thorny issue right now, and I know that it's really hard to have conversations about it, and that's why I value sitting at this table, being able to challenge our opinions. But I think that the experts are the teachers.
So I'll put it to you like this. So I'm going to say that it should be a decision of the federal government or the state. And the reason I say that is I'll give you the example. A parent, if it is pouring rain outside and the bus is coming, a parent is going to get the rain boots, the raincoat, and the umbrella because they don't want their baby to get wet, right? But how else, if the kid does not even feel a splash, how else will they know what the rain feels like? How else will they know what wet versus dry is, right? So I think we have to allow teachers to teach. So if it's a history class, it may not all feel like kittens and rainbows, but it is what happened. And it's important, it's really critical. Herman, exactly where I was going in my mind immediately was a teacher's job is not to shield the child from anything that doesn't feel comfortable. That's the parent's job, right? But the teacher's job is to give the kid all the information they need to be able to form that passionate position you had, right, in your economy class. But if you're only fed bits and pieces, it's going to be hard, right? To like really think, is this opinion that I'm giving, is it fully informed if you don't hear everything?
We're going to get into more school choice. So Americans and political candidates differ on school choice. That is, using public tax dollars to cover the cost of private school tuition. Which option do you think is best for using those education dollars? Giving money to low-income families so they can pay for their children to go to private school, or giving money to public schools to improve their education?
My response to your question is it's not either or, it's both. Because I do believe that we shouldn't frame the question, like we shouldn't have conversations like it's this or that. If you live in a poor area and your school is not doing well, I do think, especially when you talk about students who are living in poverty, they should have a choice that's paid for by public dollars. I'm all for that. Yeah. But in the same sense, we should also we should fund public education. But why is private education funded at 90% special ed reimbursement and public ed only 30%? That's just, to me, that's where the loss is.
So I'm going to piggyback on what Eric said and agree.
I got you agree with me. Woo!
Wait, no.
Yeah.
I fully agree. And sir, you stole my thunder because what I was going to say is, yes, it's not an either or, but a nuanced approach, and we need to triage who needs it when. There's going to be moments when public schools have more kids who need more special services. We need to take that into account. So it cannot be some static standard of it's 90% for private and this for public. No. There needs to be a regular assessment. I don't know what the right cadence is. I'm not in education.
100%.
Maybe it's
100% fully funded. That's your answer.
Maybe it's on a yearly basis. I don't know.
Yeah.
But a regularly scheduled assessment of what that school system needs, and then you fund it accordingly.
That's right.
Look for more of these conversations on all of our local programs and in upcoming Vote 2024 specials. Now let's talk about our foster care system, and in particular about those young people who age out at 18. Some who work with these youth say they're a forgotten population. We take a closer look at one local nonprofit that's trying to change that and to provide a brighter and healthier transition to adulthood for some young men.
I love playing pool. I'd say I'm very focused when I play. My name is Patrick, and I'm 21 years old. And I know I've been in the foster system. I've aged out. I was homeless. I know what it's like to be homeless.
Music, for me, is big. My name is CJ, and I'm 20 years old. Then I ended up just bouncing around from group home, foster home. I ended up being homeless.
Art has always helped me find myself. Art is just, that's just my happy place. I'm Michael, I'm 22 years old. I got into foster care 2016 or 2017. Honestly, I've put a lot of that kind of on the back burner.
They're very quick, Wisconsin and anywhere else, is to throw us in the system, make more opportunities so that we can, or they can, know that when they age out, they won't have to worry. Because believe it or not, there are some kids that worry like, oh my God, I'm aging out. I'm not eligible for this program. I'm gonna be homeless, or I'm gonna be stuck in this group home. I'm gonna be stuck in this homeless stuff. No, there needs to be other programs. Instead of group homes, they need to turn them group homes into stuff like Bridge of Brighton.
Many of the youth come to us from being in some type of group home or some type of institutional care. And unfortunately, this is a very underserved population, a very forgotten population. And so the needs are many. They come to us not prepared for adulthood.
As far as how I got into the foster system, bad choices were made. Let's just say family members, adults, made poor decisions that put us in a predicament.
They live in a constant state of fight or flight. In their world, I think they're often used to chaos. And so to try and bring order and structure and routine to their life is very difficult.
When I was born, I was released from my mom because she was like going through all kind of stuff. Basically, I ended up being in foster care until I was about 8 or 9. And then I ended up being adopted by my auntie. Things didn't work out there. So like I ended up leaving her house when I was like 12 or 13.
Our focus is on quality. And when you take a deep dive into each of these young people's story and what they have to go through and what they have to overcome, it's a major achievement.
Shoot, the worst part of my life is the part that got me here. You know, that's why, you know, like I'm very grateful.
So if it wasn't here, I don't know what I probably would have either been still at rescue mission. I really honestly don't even know what I would have done. I probably would have been still struggling.
Sometimes it takes a punch in the face. Sometimes it takes you to be out in the street for you to realize where you at.
This place has changed me in a lot of ways that I didn't even I couldn't see in myself.
The way that I would describe the foster care system in Milwaukee County is, while there are many great organizations doing many great things, it's a broken system. There are gaps in the system. There are needs that are unaddressed or that need to be better addressed. What makes us different? I think first is we're physically housing the youth and then providing the support services in a community within Bridge to Brighter to help them be successful. Providing the coaching, the mentorship, the resources, whether it's educational or employment related, mental health resources. We want to make sure that the youth that we bring in are candidates or individuals that want to help themselves, that want a better life, that want to overcome, that want to break the cycle.
When I came here, I didn't trust anybody. I was just an isolator. Like, you could ask anybody here. I would just be by myself. I didn't want no friends. I didn't want nothing. So, like, knowing that it's okay to reach out for help and reach out and make connections with people and make meaningful connections.
Our program at Bridge to Brighter, as far as in the Milwaukee area, I think we're extremely unique, and there's not another organization doing what we are doing. One of our requirements at Bridge to Brighter is that the youth are either in school or have a job. That is extremely important. To pay rent, you're going to have a job. The Milwaukee Christian Center Youth Build program, and through that program, they are working, maybe finishing their high school GED, getting their driver's license.
I swear, working, man, it's something I actually wake up to, and actually I feel good about it. You know, I used to have a really negative outlook on it.
Currently, we have a 8-unit apartment complex. We currently are housing 6 youth, and these youth come to us from Milwaukee County. The youth all have their own apartment. We do apartment checks. Nobody lives on site. Now at all of our house meetings, we cook a meal. And it's great to, to get the guys involved and interactive and sharing, and it's a learning experience, so it's fun. We also have a community space in the basement where the youth can gather, where we have meetings. And so, think about 2024, think about goals that you have. The purpose of the house meetings at Bridge to Brighter are to create a sense of community. One of the biggest things with any organization is communication. So as you know, a couple months ago, we added Band-Aids to our agenda and to our monthly house meeting. And it's, I think it's been great as far as building a sense of community, hearing on what's going on with you guys, if there's certain struggles or certain things that you want to share or celebrate.
I got a good one.
Okay.
I was able to get a couple people that I had hurt in the past to do a forgiveness dinner with me.
Congratulations, that's fantastic.
I definitely have something to share because I've been trying to hold myself accountable to keeping up with these goals. I'm getting more consistent with budgeting.
I appreciate you guys so much. I appreciate every one of you guys. I'm seeing like the growth between all of us, and just having a community of people that care for me and that are here for me. I really cannot say how much I appreciate that.
I like that.
Yeah.
The people here are so uplifting. Coming here, this is an incredible place. Like, the way that they care for you is unmatched. I have a lot of trauma.
How are they helping you deal with that?
Signing me up with therapists, signing me up with a psychiatrist, making sure I have a doctor, always checking on me, making sure I'm okay.
Changing one young person's life to make them self-reliant, self-sufficient, independent, making that transition to adulthood is our goal.
I would know, honestly, I would have known like what I was doing. Like, Bridge to Brighter, I gotta say this is a blessing. Like, this is a big, huge blessing to have.
Bridge to Brighter hopes to offer the same support in the near future for young women who age out. The Wisconsin Department of Children and Families praised programs like Bridge to Brighter. An administrator with the DCF pointed out the many challenges within the foster care system.
Nationally, statewide, locally, it's really hard to run a foster care system, is what I would say. And I have seen in my time with this agency, which is just north of 10 years, a lot of positive progress. And I think especially the youth they're working with, boy, that is a group of youth with a lot of challenges. Aging out of foster care means that you have not achieved a permanent family living arrangement. And what we know for our kids, for all kids, is that parenting is the thing that they seem to need the most. It's about lifelong support, just interpersonal human interaction. It's about sometimes financial support. It's about having a place to go and be a person in a family. Group homes are never a place that we want to have kids living, to be quite honest. In Milwaukee County, they're located in a lot of neighborhoods where people know where they are, so they know where these youth are. If they're interested in getting them involved in sort of some negative activities, they know how to find them. I do think it's really hard work for them to try to manage around some of those challenges. The efforts that we've been taking to try to reduce, particularly the group home stays, probably one of the hardest things we've ever tried to do.
As you heard, mental health is an area of concern for our youth and so many others. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we continue our series, How We Heal, with psychotherapist and producer Elizabeth Kramer. She introduces us to some special horse friends who are trying to make a difference.
Ready to go in? May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and part of spreading awareness is talking about different types of therapy. Today we're visiting an equine therapy center to learn how horses can help with mental health.
When did Reins get started?
Reins was founded in 1982 at LTC as a part of their therapeutic PT and OT program, I believe. Here in Sheboygan, it's moved around the county a little bit. We've been at this facility for 9 years now. So we were able to purchase it in February of last year. Otherwise, we had leased it from the Majestic Crossing Dairy Farm up the road. They were very generous and leased it to us for $1 a year. So that way we were able to secure a permanent home now with stability and everything.
Yeah, because it's a nonprofit, right?
It is, yep.
It's great.
It is, through and through.
So focus on getting his nose in first. You got it. Bend over his ears. Good job. Now this goes up high on his cheek.
Okay. Give him lots of room.
Yep.
Guys,
So
he's
good.
a big boy.
Great job. Nice and gentle.
Good job, Brayden. We serve people with physical, cognitive, and emotional disabilities and disorders. We do an evaluation prior to participation in Reins to make sure that it's a safe fit for everybody involved. We serve a wide variety of diagnoses. An area that I have a lot of passion in and have worked to grow a lot has been specifically the youth mental health and education program. So there was kind of an old story of the therapeutic riding was like pony rides and you put people on and go in circles, and I was like, no, this is a lot more than that.
All right, so our focus is going to be on getting Ripley warmed up to ride.
I see a lot of people who could potentially fall through some cracks, and so that's where we're really trying to be a different form of service that can step in and hopefully provide some support to prevent that.
When you're ready, let's practice a whoa, practicing our big, loud, confident vocal cues.
It's pretty cool to see the connections being made. A lot of times working with people is hard. We're with people all day long. You got a lot more social cues to read and it's exhausting, but our participants get here and they can just go be with their horse. The horses don't really conceal their emotions as much, and so they can match up really well and just have that relationship with another being, but not the exhaustion of it being another person.
Brayden, you can go ahead when you're comfortable and grab on the yellow section of those reins and hold your hands above Ripley's neck.
I like to say horses have a sixth sense. They're very interoceptive, so they're very sensitive to the emotions and the attitudes of everyone around them. So horses are herd animals and they're flight animals. So they tend to look to the beings around them, whether that's horses or people, for how they should respond in a situation. So why that makes them such magical tools for our participants is that they are very reflective. So if you're not having a good day, I'm going to be able to tell right away just based off of how your horse is feeling in both an emotional and a physical sense. So we have some horses that, one day you're like, why is that horse just walking sideways and we can't keep him walking on a straight line? And the horse realized before any of us that the rider is crooked in the saddle, and so maybe then we know, here's a physical thing that we can focus on correcting in lessons. And then also from an emotional standpoint, a lot of, especially our teenagers who are coming in from a day at school and they just have so much going on in their head, you can see that reflected in the horses that they work with. Take a nice deep breath and let it out through your mouth.
What else do you like about working with the horses? Have they helped you?
Yeah.
How have they helped you?
At home.
How so?
Because I used to be a really angry kid, and now, ever since I came here, it's been helping me.
Okay. What were you angry about?
I just didn't really, at school, I get bullied a lot, so.
Okay, that's hard.
Yeah.
And they also help you do what?
They help me, calm, if, let's say, I don't get frustrated here, but, let's say I get frustrated, and it usually helps me to, pet them, because they're really soft and all that.
Brayden, I'm noticing that your woes are coming a lot quicker. What are you noticing about how you're cueing that maybe is helping Ripley? You're being bossy? I would say you're being confident. Yes, your whoa is quite confident, he can hear you, and he's paying good attention.
So how did you get involved with reins?
We were just looking for avenues for Braden to help his social skills, to enhance peer relationships, and somebody mentioned reins, and we thought, oh, we'll just give it a try and see where that takes us.
You want to walk over back and take the back, and then we're done for the day.
Hi, I love you. He just started this season, right?
Yeah.
What are some changes, if any, that you've noticed already?
Well, I think the second session, I believe they really helped the boys look at reading the cues of the horses. And the instructors do a really good job pointing out, like, Braden, what do you think the horse is telling you right now? What cues might he really be sharing with you, or what do you think he's feeling? And those are all things that he sometimes struggles with people and peers. And so it's neat to see how he can take some of those components of working with a horse and an animal and then relate it to people.
That wraps up this edition of 1036. Remember, check us out on all of our social media platforms. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.